For more on the Texans, we go out to the HR&P guest line, and we bring on Texans beat writer for the Houston Chronicle, Brooks Kubena. Brooks, it's Jake, BK, and Cody. Appreciate your time today. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, guys. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. So what for you was the biggest takeaway when you think back and you reflect on the Texans picking up their first win of the season?
Well, it's something that you have to temper your expectations a bit. I mean, they pounded on a team that finished last place last year for a reason. They restructured a lot of their front seven on defense, the Jags did, and they attacked that several times in the run game, sometimes effectively, sometimes not. We saw how Tim Culley was going to cycle through their choice of 5 running backs in their system pretty expansively. They did a lot of different personnels, sometimes had 2 backs in the field at once, but mainly there was still those little struggles whenever they were going in short yardage situations in the goal line. But overall, when you look at it, the running back scored in 3 different ways. Catching a pass out of the backfield with David Johnson, a wildcat with Mark Ingram heading off to Phillip Lindsay, and then just your standard run up the middle with Ingram and a touchdown. So, there are effective pieces to this. And the defense got more just the same amount of interceptions than they did all of last year. So they did what they were supposed to do. They beat a very bad Jags team, and now they're going to go play a Cleveland Browns team that could win their division and make a run perhaps at the AFC.
Brooks, Tyrod Taylor yesterday was magnificent. 21 of 33, 291 yards and 2 touchdowns, also 0 turnovers. He was damn near perfect in the first half as the Texans took a 27-7 lead into the locker room. How do you evaluate his performance, and do you think that's anywhere close to sustainable? Maybe the Texans have something better than a lot of people thought with Tyrod Taylor.
Well, Tyrod Taylor's success is going to marry up with how the run game does week to week. If you remember, whenever he was back in Buffalo, his lone Pro Bowl season was working and operating in a system under Greg Roman, who is one of the best offensive coordinators when dealing with running quarterbacks and factoring them in with a successful run game. Did that in Buffalo, did that in Baltimore, and David Culley was with him the past couple of years. It's what they're trying to do here, kind of why they want to go to an efficient run game. It can open up things like, if you remember, out of a 3 tight end set, they'd run the ball successfully, and then it opened up a one-on-one for Brandon Cooks on a 24-yard pass down the field. Those are the spots where Tyrod Taylor will thrive in the downfield passing game. He's got a good arm. We saw him chunk it a couple of times on some broken plays, and he has the ability to escape out of some sacks. There were several times. Urban Meyer, after the game, was talking about how frustrated they were on the sideline, almost having a couple of sacks there. He gives you that escapability. So what you saw from him is how he can play off an efficient run game that wasn't at its peak. And if it is at some point this season, I think you can see his success expand as well. Obviously, a great day statistically for him, and a lot of that has to do with how Brandon Cooks can jump up and go for a ball. But this offense can be explosive if that run game succeeds.
Brooks, I really enjoyed your breakdown of when the team had 3 tight ends on the field and some of the times where Jacksonville was expecting them to run and the team still had a little bit of success. Do I have it right that you maybe, despite them having success running the football, you'd like to see maybe the efficiency in certain spots be a little bit better for this team? So I guess really my question is, do you think they can run the football better than they did yesterday? Maybe not for a total yardage, but maybe in a more efficient way.
I think they'll have to. And you can find this did a film study breakdown. You can find it at HoustonChronicle.com. One of the key pieces in this, you look at the statistics on their face, and it's 3.9 yards per carry for the running backs, which is less than they had last year. Where that focused is in 13 personnel, which is having 3 tight ends on the field. And Mark Ingram had 14 carries for 32 yards. And he's plodding away in these situations that are short yardage. They're bringing in more tight ends to try and manufacture runs on 3rd and 1, 1st and goal within the 5. And they weren't able to manufacture enough yardage to pick up those first downs and get those touchdowns and pick up those yards in those situations. That's not great news when you're playing against the Jaguars and you're about to go up and play the Browns, who have an excellent front, or into the other special defenses that they're going to play as the year goes on. If they can't get the push they need, then they're going to struggle, and they're going to punt, and they're going to be in situations where they're playing from the behind, and that's just not sustainable with the offense they're trying to play here. It works best in the way that they were playing on Sunday. You're ahead, you can control the clock, and you can keep moving the ball. So if they're able to do that still, we got to see some things. I think reviewing the tape, wondering how Titus Howard was going to play at left guard. There were times when he was getting blown back off the line. Are they going to fix those things on the interior? Because bringing in however many tight ends you want on the edge and trying to lead block and as fullbacks and other H-backs, that's not going to help you if you can't get the push on the interior. So that has to be shored up once they start playing tougher defenses.
We're talking with Brooks Kubina, covers the Texans for the Houston Chronicle right here on the HRMP guest line. You're listening to the Wheelhouse on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Brooks, what were your impressions of David Culley from his first game as a head coach, and do you feel like he's the right coach maybe at the right time to deal with a team that's in a full rebuild mode like the Texans are?
Well, he was. How else could you be happier after winning your first game as a NFL head coach? He came in, he was making jokes, he was smiling, he was feeling good. He got the game ball. The team's cheering for him. The fans are, giving him an ovation as they're going off the field. He was juiced from that. And last week I wrote a long story about him and the moment that it was for him, first time head coach in the NFL. From what I've learned about him, he does seem like the right person for this particular situation. He's been in the league for 27 years. He understands people. He has a good connection with guys, and he gets the most out of them and keeps instilling a competitive environment in a situation where they're not going to stack up a lot of wins. I think that's what they're trying to instill here. And he also has a long tenured time of coaching that allows them to play cleanly. I think if you look at the first half, there wasn't that many penalties. They're playing clean football. They aren't turning the ball over. They didn't do that at all on Sunday. And with the talent level that they have right now, which frankly, not a lot of star power on this, they're not going to be out. They're not going to be outperforming a lot of people with the players that they have on this team. They're going to have to play cleanly, and he's the coach that can help them do that. Today he was going off about the penalties that they had. They didn't have that many compared to the Jaguars. So the question is going to be, once the losses start to stack up, if they do, and they expect, as I do, that they will at some point, how does he keep the team together and pushing through that? They have a veteran locker room. They have a veteran coach. We'll see if he is indeed the right person for the job.
Well, Brooks, I think you kind of answered my next question at the end of your response there. Have your expectations for the Texans changed at all after this game, or do you just chalk up yesterday's performance to the Jags being the worst team in the NFL?
Well, I picked the Jaguars to win, so it already exceeded my expectations here for the Texans. But are they going to be anywhere close to a middling team? That's the question. That's what we're going to find out with the Browns. Where's the separation between the Texans and the best teams in the league? And the Browns, after playing the Chiefs so tightly, they're starting to reach their peak. So, is it a team that's in the middle? That's what we're going to find out here. My expectations are, okay, they're not the worst, and they dominated a team that they were supposed to if they were able to do so. And they could have piled on more points with the turnovers they got. Out of all 3 turnovers that they got, the interceptions, they only got 3 points. So if this were the Chiefs, if this were the Browns, how badly would the Jaguars have been beaten on that? So we'll have to see many more games to see where exactly this team is in its future.
Brooks, when you look at yesterday, what is something that this team accomplished that you feel is maybe a one-off in this scenario that is unlikely for them to replicate from a week-in, week-out basis? And I kind of think about it with the DBs and maybe the performance they had. I feel like Jacksonville sort of helped them out a little bit. But is there something you can put your finger on as, hey, it happened yesterday, but I wouldn't expect this every week from this team?
Well, you just hit on what I'm writing right now. I'm sitting in front of my laptop writing a story about the pressure that the defense was getting on Trevor Lawrence. Frankly, there wasn't much. They were rushing 4 defenders the entire time, and the only time they ever got a sack was the one time that they blitzed with their linebackers right at the end of the fourth quarter. How much pressure did they give Trevor Lawrence throughout this? And it wasn't much, and he was really making a lot of rookie throws, overthrowing people, throwing on the run, making bad decisions as a rookie's going to do. Is Baker Mayfield going to do that? Probably not. Is there other – if you look at the schedule here, there's not that many playoff quarterbacks with lots of tenured experience like Tom Brady did whenever he ran 2 touchdown drives on the last preseason game. So I think that showed you a little bit about what the defense is like whenever they'll play elite quarterbacks. frankly, there's not that many. So can they continue to turn the ball over against people who, aren't the elite quarterbacks in the league? We'll see. Can they do it against Baker Mayfield? We'll see. I think that's one of the things that's most questionable about the defense, if they're able to get pressure on quarterbacks by just rushing 4.
Brooks, great job. Thanks so much for a couple minutes, man. Congrats to you. I know it's your first game covering the Texans here since you joined the Chronicle, so we appreciate you making some time for us here on the show.
Yeah, and I just want to say, it's been a long time from me and Brad back in our college days. I'm glad to hear him continuing his deal, carrying the 91.7 FM, all the hits, all the time.
Oh,
so we're good.
Man. Yeah, Brooks and I went to UT together, and we were hosting sports radio shows in college together. Brooks, it's nice that we're starting to make a little bit of money for our work, isn't it?
Well, it's part of the deal. You just, They didn't give us much except a couple of T-shirts, so it works out.
Hey, in college, that felt great, man. Hey, we appreciate the time, brother, and talk soon, man. Continued success.